right, guys, welcome back. If you are new to the channel, thank you for showing up and giving it a shot. And to all my regular listeners, I truly appreciate you guys being here and spending a little bit of time with me on this YouTube channel. So thank you guys both. One of the things that I am a big advocate about, and you know, there's part of me that's not an advocate about it, and then there's part of me that is an advocate about it, and that's habits. You know, in protection and in the military, you didn't want to have habits when it came to missions, right? In the sense of you wanted to make sure that you differentiated routes, that you gave yourself the ability to be unpredictable. So habits were not something that were highly looked upon when it came to mission operations. But habits as individuals, I incredibly value. And the reason being is because the fact that when we create habits, it primes our brains, right? And it primes our brains to respond in a way, even cohesively with our body, to set us up for a certain way of being within our day or within our lives, right? Or even within a situation. And so that's why I think habits are so important in life. And the more that I dive into what my habits are, and then I actually retrospectively look at how I showed up in a situation based upon what I did prior to, then that helps me to understand, one, how the habit is affecting me in real time. So seeing the fruits of that labor, or two, how is that habit not potentially even really helping me at all, right? And so it's taking a look at those things and saying, okay, what serves me and what doesn't serve me, but also what puts me in an advantageous position in most areas of my life. And so habits are something that I value probably a lot more than I ever have, especially when it comes to things like daily life and biohacking essentially in daily operations, like how I set myself up in the morning for the rest of my day for work helps me to be in a certain mindset to then handle work in a different way. And so I say this, that I enjoy habits, but I also want to give everybody the caveat of not everyone's habits look the same. And so you may watch somebody on YouTube and they're like, hey, these essential things in the morning will set you up for success. Well, no, they actually won't, because everybody is different, and potentially your ability to line yourself up, right, to get you aligned and to get you in the right mindset for your day may not respond very well to those habits. And that's okay. But understanding that habits have a place in our lives. And so even when we talk about, I used to not believe in nighttime habits, 100% not believe in nighttime habits. So I understood morning daily habits, but I didn't really get into nighttime habits until probably the last few years. But when I saw how they positively impacted my next day, from seriously just how my body was feeling, how I woke up with clarity and awareness, and how I just in general was able to be, to have a high level of acuity in the morning and to be highly functional and also highly productive. When I saw how much, and I'm telling you, because I noticed the difference, because I would keep the same daily or morning habits and would change the nightly ones, but see a different me the next day. So it was important for me to do that and test that out on myself, because then I was able to really absorb how important my nightly habits were. And so I ask you guys, what are the habits that you put into your day, right? And just think about this for a few moments. You know, what is it that you do in your morning? And what is it that you do in your evening? And it's okay to say, I don't do shit. Because in all honesty, just a few short years ago, I was not doing anything for my morning and nightly habits. And I was obviously, you know, taking away from my own productivity because that, but like I said, it's totally okay to not have those right now. But I would say once you review what you are not doing, because remember too, Habits can be completely subconscious. So don't think that just because you haven't consciously created something, you don't have habits that you actually do in the morning and that you do at night. You've created habits. You absolutely have, but you may have done it so unconsciously that they're going to have to be identified consciously, and then you're going to have to see how they affect you consciously, so you know, okay, what habit is helpful and what habit is not, because some of them actually may be good for you, and naturally or intuitively you did them, and some of them may be very negative. And I'll give you guys an example of this, is that, just a few years ago, I would say, okay, like I'd smash my day, I'd get all this work done, I'd work for my job, and then I would start my business stuff, and I'd get all these things done, I feel great, and then the evening hits, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to make dinner, and then I'm going to sit down and watch a show for like 30 minutes. It could just be some dumb show, whatever, but I wanted to, veg out, right? Like, this is something that we're taught. And I was like, okay, let me do that. And I just found out, I found out that, the next day I'd be a little less productive, or I wouldn't be as productive early on. And then I started to really assess, okay, what was my mindset in the morning after that? And then I started to also assess, okay, how productive was I for the length of the day, as opposed to, just the morning, but how much more was I productive for the length of the day? And I hate that term, not the funny thing. The interesting thing was that I realized I was obviously less productive in the morning. I needed a bigger gap in the morning of not actually doing work, but catching up on, say, news, or catching up on sports or something like that. I would give myself more padding in the morning before I actually executed on work. And then I found out that I was less productive later in the day. So as I got to being, let's say, maybe not productive, less creative. I was less creative later in the day. That's what I would say. And so as I saw that trend, I said, well, let me switch up my nightly habits, okay? Let me, instead of putting on a TV show, let me put on a podcast, something I enjoy. Now, my secret podcasts are the ones that I love. They're things like Star Talk Radio with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and the Model Health Show, Sean Stevenson, and Josh Trent, Wellness Force. I love those podcasts. They were very informational for me on subjects I really enjoy. And it allowed me to absorb intelligence, but also prime my brain in a different way than I was numbing out watching a TV show. And so what I found out was, when I changed this one tiny habit in the evening, my whole next day became very different. And I mean very different. I was quicker to be productive in the morning, obviously. You didn't see that one coming, shocker, right? I was more creative later in the day. You obviously didn't see that one coming either. And I also just felt a ton better. I felt better mentally. And then I also felt better intellectually. And so all of that combined to also start receiving different things in my life. And what I mean by this is that when we start to change tiny habits in our daily life, we start to shift what we receive from the universe. We start to shift the opportunities that come into our lives, because we've now changed the trajectory of what our days encompass and what energy and vibration is flowing through that day. And this all may sound very esoteric to you. This all may sound very spiritual to you, but had I not experienced it for myself, I probably would be in the same shoes. But I did experience it for myself. And what I mean by this was I'd be listening to podcasts, and this was very early on in my podcasting career. And I'd be listening to podcasts while eating dinner, and I'd start thinking to myself, wow, I need to get, a couple of guests on the show that maybe talk about this or that. And I'm not kidding you guys. I would sit down the next day and I'd start working, and then I'd get into Instagram and I'd all of a sudden have a message from somebody that wanted to be on my show who fell into that field, or was a guest who had an incredible wealth of knowledge in something that I thought would benefit men. And I was like, oh, wow, this would be really great to have this guy on. And I never thought of it. Or when I emailed, or I would get emails from people about being on the show. And I was like, holy crap, this is really weird. This is just all started to really fall into my life. But it was 100% attributed. I wasn't reaching out to these people. Remember this. I attribute this to me shifting one little habit in my life, and it started to change what was coming in to my life, what I was receiving, and I became a vibrational match to the things that I desired at that time, which was building my podcast, getting great guests on it. And so when we have our ability to not only identify habits that we currently have that may not be serving us, we can then replace those with habits that potentially may set us up for success mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually for the next day. And so what this looks like for me now is, for instance, in my morning, I do a vitality swing, which is to help my back, but it's also something that helps move chi around the energy in your body. I do that for a full 16 minutes. I do some stretching for my lower back. I do a little bit of reading, somewhere around 10 minutes, and I just give myself 10 minutes to read whatever book that I'm reading. I usually have a couple going on at the same time. And then I have a coffee that's primed for getting my brain going. So that coffee is not just a bulletproof coffee. It's coffee with grass-fed butter, 1 tablespoon of grass-fed butter, a tablespoon of MCT oil or just straight coconut oil, and then a little scooper of a mushroom blend, an organic mushroom blend, that helps to really prime awareness and focus in the morning. And so I do all of that afterwards before I even step foot into any form of work. And what that has helped me with has been higher levels of productivity in the morning and feeling great about starting my day. And it's giving back to myself. And really all that is about 30 minutes of a morning routine. Because I actually, when I'm laying down on the vitality swing, I do meditate and I do my gratitudes. So for about 16 minutes, I'll meditate and do gratitudes. That's coupled with the vitality swing. And so all of that primes me, mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And then it primes me physically as well. I get blood flowing through my body, especially after the stretching. I get I get the energy moving in my body through the vitality swing. And then I'm able to really step foot into my day in a fully aware state that embodies somebody who is going to be productive and creative. And so on top of that, then that bleeds into later parts of my day. And then when I get to my evening routine, it's something very similar. But what I do is typically I will write in my journal. I like to do that at the end of the day. I write in my journal at the end of the day. And then I read my book. I read a book for about 30 minutes before I go to sleep. And I typically have magnesium, a magnesium spray that I'll put on, because magnesium is incredibly, we're pretty much, I think 84% of people are deficient in magnesium. We just don't get enough of it from food. But the biggest use of magnesium is our heart. And so when we do that, I'm able to then give a nutrient to my body that helps me sleep, but also helps me chemically and physiologically. And then I have some tea and then I go to sleep, right? And so that sets me up. And I find that when I do that routine regularly, my days the next day are so much better. I come out stronger. I come out feeling great. I get great rest. So I feel actually recovered when I wake up in the morning. And that becomes my primer for the next day. And when you bracket every day with your morning and your night routines, they don't have to be extensive, guys. They don't have to be something so abundant that you're doing them for 3 hours. Now, it's okay if you do that. My wife does that, and it's amazing for her. Sets her up for huge success during her days. But that's not me. That may not be you. So give yourself some grace and find a routine that works for you. And it could be something like just 15 minutes or 30 minutes, but buy into something that allows you to set up for yourself, to set up success for yourself. So I hope there's something in this that you can take away where you can start to find those habits that really improve your life, because those habits are what are going to set you up for success. And they're also going to help you in your relationships. They're also going to help you just in general, physiologically. And it's also going to prime you for being creative and more productive. So enjoy that, guys. And I will see you guys next time.